Greetings, students. This is Manisha Punch, and let us complete the chapter The Portrait of a Lady. Now, first of all, let us revise that what we had studied in the previous video. We had discussed or we had read the chapter and we came to know about the three phases of author's relationship with his grandmother before he left the country to study abroad, right? Now, the initial phase discusses the early childhood phase when he stayed with his grandmother. Now, in this phase, he lived in the village, ठीक है? And his grandmother looked after him very much by getting him up from sleep and making him ready for school, right? The next phase was the time when they both moved to the city with his parents. The turning point of the story started when they had to stay separate from each other, right? Now, children, the final phase start when the author was admitted to the university. He lived in a separate room and his grandmother was in another room, right? All day long, she was busy wheel spinning and reciting prayer. Now, grandmother accepted the seclusion in silence. She did not, get offended that why he's getting another room or something like that. Now, when I decided to go abroad for further studies, I was sure my grandmother would be upset. I would be away for 5 years. Now, who was going away for 5 years? The author, right? And at her age, no one could tell. But my grandmother could. She was not even sentimental. She did not show any kind of sentiments. She came to leave me at the railway station but did not talk or show any emotion. Though she came to leave her grandson at the station, but there was no kind of emotion. Her lips moved in prayer. Her mind was lost in prayer. Her fingers were busy telling the beads of a rosary. Silently, she kissed my forehead. Sorry, children. And when I left, I cherished the moist imprint as perhaps the last sign of physical contact between us. So when he was going, she actually kissed him. So the author only tells that this was the kind of last physical contact between them, right? But that was not so. After 5 years, I came home and was met by her at the station. Now, who came to receive him? Again, the grandmother. She did not look a day older. Now, the writer is saying that वो जो lady थी, वो जैसे वो छोड़ के आया था 5 साल पहले, वो वैसी थी. She had no time for words. ठीक है? And while she clasped me in her arms, I could hear her reciting the prayers. Now, अब उनके पास फिर भी उसके लिए कोई टाइम नहीं था. उन्होंने उसको हग किया, गले लगाया और जब वो उनके पास आई राइटर के तो उन्होंने हल्के से क्या सुना कि प्रेयर्स बोली जा रही है. Even on the first day of my arrival, her happiest moments were with the sparrows, whom she fed longer with frivolous rebukes. Now, what had happened, children? The writer is saying कि जब वो आए थे, right? फिर भी उनका हैप्पीएस्ट मोमेंट क्या होना चाहिए कि उनका पोता घर आया है, राइट? वो उनको वो सबसे हैप्पीएस्ट मोमेंट रहने चाहिए थे. बट चिल्ड्रन, उनका हैप्पीएस्ट मोमेंट क्या था कि वो अभी भी किसको फीड कर रहे थे? स्पैरोज को. इन द इवनिंग अ चेंज केम ओवर. शी डिड नॉट प्रे. अब इवनिंग में देयर वर सम चेंजेस, ठीक है? शी डिड नॉट प्रे. Now, she collected the women of the neighborhood, got it an old drum, and started to sing. For several hours, she thumped the sagging skins of the dilapidated drum. अब क्या कर रहा? एक चेंज आया. वो क्या करती थी? नेबरहुड से औरतों को कलेक्ट करके चीज़ों को गाना गाने शुरू कर देती थी. Now, what is the meaning of the sagging skin of the dilapidated drum? Means worn out condition of the drum. ठीक है, वो टूटा था, worn out, राइट, एंड sang ऑफ होम कमिंग वॉरियर्स. किन के बारे में गाना गा रहे थे? वॉरियर्स के होम कमिंग के. We had to persuade her to stop, to avoid overstraining. That was the first time since I had known her. She did not pray. मतलब ये एक चिल्ड्रन पहली बार था जहाँ पर ग्रैंड मदर क्या कर रही थी? पूजा नहीं कर रही थी, बट सिंगिंग कर रही थी. पहली बार उनके मुंह से वो प्रेयर्स नहीं निकल रही थी. द नेक्स्ट मॉर्निंग शी वॉज टेकन इल. अब वो बीमार पड़ गई नेक्स्ट दिन. इट वॉज अ माइल्ड फीवर एंड द डॉक्टर टोल्ड अस दैट इट वुड गो. अब वो माइल्ड फीवर था तो डॉक्टर ने बोला ठीक हो जाएगा. बट माई ग्रैंड मदर थॉट डिफरेंटली. अब उनकी ग्रैंड मदर ने सोचा कि नहीं, ये तो कुछ अलग ही चीज़ है. ठीक है, अब क्या हुआ? शी टोल्ड अस दैट हर एंड वॉज नियर. अब ओल्ड पीपल होते हैं ना, जब उनकी जैसी तबीयत खराब होती है तो उनको यही लगता है कि उनका एंड नियर है, शी इज़ गोइंग टू डाई. She said that since only few hours before the close of the last chapter of her life, she had omitted to pray. Now what is happening, children? She want कि अब वो मरने वाली हैं तो she said कि अब सब जाओ और मुझे क्या करने दो? प्रे करने दो. She was not going to waste any more time talking to us. बोले नहीं, मुझे किसी से बात नहीं करनी है. I do not want to waste my time, but only I want to pray. We protested. हमने मना किया कि नहीं नहीं, हमसे बात करो. But she ignored our protest. She lay peacefully in her bed, praying and telling her rosary bed. Now she laid peacefully on her bed, ठीक है, praying, और फिर भी रोजरी बीट्स कर रहे थे. Even before we could suspect, her lips stopped moving and the rosary fell from her lifeless finger. हम कुछ सस्पेक्ट ही कर पाते या हम देख ही पाते, तब तक क्या हुआ? उनके लिप्स रोजरी बीट से स्टॉप हो गई. राइट, मूव करना स्टॉप हो गई और रोजरी बीट्स उनके हाथ से गिर गई. लाइफलेस फिंगर्स मतलब अब वो उनकी डेथ हो चुकी थी. अ पीसफुल पैलर स्प्रेड ऑन अ फेस एंड वी न्यू दैट शी वॉज डेड. नाउ व्हाट डज पैलर मीन्स? PALLOR. दैट मीन्स एन अनहेल्दी पेल अपीयरेंस. राइट. Now we lifted her off the bed and, as in customary, laid her on the ground and covered her with the red shroud. Now, as in Hindu mythology, because he was Kushwant Singh, he's a Punjabi, and what did, as customary, बेड से उठाकर उनको कहाँ पर लेके गए? ग्राउंड में ज़मीन पर लिटा दिया और उनके ऊपर कफन डाल दिया. आफ्टर अ फ्यू आवर्स ऑफ मोर्निंग मतलब दुख जाहिर करना जब कोई मर जाता है. वी लेफ्ट हर अलोन टू मेक अरेंजमेंट्स फॉर अ फ्यूनरल. हम सब निकल गए ताकि उनके फ्यूनरल के लिए आगे चीज़ें कर सके. इन द इवनिंग वी वेंट टू हर रूम विद अ क्रूड स्ट्रेचर and take her to be cremated. Now what happened in the evening? वो क्या लेके आए? स्ट्रेचर लेके आए ताकि वो उनको क्रिमिनेट कर सके. The sun was setting and had left her room and veranda with blaze of golden light. अब राइटर बोल रहा है कि क्या करा था हमने? जैसे इवनिंग टाइम में होता है ना, पूरा स्काई ऑरेंज रेडिश हो जाता है, वैसे ही पूरा का पूरा वरांडा क्योंकि सन सेट कर रहा था ऐसे ही हो गया था. वी स्टॉप्ड हाफ वे इन द कोर्टयार्ड, all over the veranda and in her room, right up where she lay dead and still wrapped in the red shroud. Thousands of sparrows sat scattered on the floor. Now, जैसे वो क्रॉस कर रहे थे उन्होंने देखा कि हज़ारों चिड़ियाँ, sparrows are small birds, children. They were scattered on the floor. जहाँ पर वो मरी हुई थी या डेड ले हुए डेथ से जो लेकर रखे थे, राइट, where her shroud, where she was, thousands of sparrow came. Right, there was no chirping मतलब चिचिहाट. ठीक है, जो चिड़ियाँ करती ना आवाज़, that is chirping, children. We felt sorry for the birds. अब वो बुरा फील हो रहा था किसके लिए? बर्ड्स के लिए. and my mother fetched some bread for them. fetch मतलब थोड़ा खाना देने के लिए ब्रेड दिया उनको. She broke it into little crumbs, हल्के टुकड़ों में तोड़ा, and the way my grandmother used to, and threw it to them. अब उनको दे दिया. The sparrow took no notice of the bread. ठीक है, तो स्पैरो ने कोई ब्रेड नहीं देखी. When we carried my grandmother corpse off, they flew away quietly. जैसे ही क्या हुआ, वो अपनी ग्रैंडमदर को लेके जा रहे थे, उनकी बॉडी को लेके जा रहे थे, ये हज़ारों चिड़ियाँ जो थी वहाँ से उड़ गई. नेक्स्ट मॉर्निंग द स्वीपर स्वेप्ट द ब्रेड क्रम्स इनटू द डस्टबिन. नाउ नेक्स्ट मॉर्निंग क्या हुआ, द स्वीपर ने सारे के सारे ब्रेड क्रम्स उनको डस्टबिन में डाल दिए. ठीक है children, now I hope you might have understood the whole text. Now let us discuss these 5 questions here. And children, be very there's one word that I wanted to tell you. This is a protagonist. Now what does protagonist mean, children? Protagonist means who's the main character of the story. Okay, so it is known as the protagonist. Okay, so we can use while answering the text. While answering the text, we can use the word protagonist. Okay. Now, children, let us understand the text. Let us understand these 5 questions. It says that the 3 phases of author's relationship with his grandmother left before he left the country to study abroad. So now we have to discuss the 3 phases. ठीक है, जब वो अब्रॉड से पहले गए थे, राइट. द इनिशियल फेजेस डिस्कसेस द अर्ली चाइल्डहुड फेज व्हेन ही स्टेड विद हिज ग्रैंडमदर. इन दिस फेज वी लिव्ड इन अ विलेज and his grandmother looked after him very much by getting him up from sleep and making him ready for the school. Okay, this is the first and initial stage. Here you can add that they would feed the, they would feed the dogs, street dogs, with stale chapati where butter and sugar was added, right? The next, because children, in the next she took feeding the sparrows. So we can tell that she loved animals, right? In the next phase was the time when they both moved to the city with the parents. Okay, now you can write this is the turning point, or this is the most important change. Now the turning point of the story started when they had to stay separated from each other. Here you can add 2-3 more things, that she did not escort him to the school, and she would not, she would only make him change his clothes, get ready. Okay, then you can tell him she would not help him with the school homework, right? You can all add to this. The final phase started when the author was admitted to the university. When he went to the university, he was given a separate room. Okay, and all day long she was busy. Now she was busy wheel spinning and reciting prayer. ठीक है, grandmother accepted her seclusion in silence. She wanted to say, okay, but she always, she accepted her seclusion. You can write this answer. Now it says 3 ways by the author's mother was disturbed when he started going to the city school, right? Now reasons why author's mother was disturbed when he started to going to city school. Now you can write the grandmother of the author was disturbed when she knew that in school the learning was related to Western science, which she did not accept at all. Right? Another reason for a disturbance happened because any kind of story about God as well as scriptures was not taught in school. Right? And the next unhappiness of his grandmother was about the music lesson. According to her, music is only suitable for those people who belong to low dignity, like those harlots and the beggars, right? So you could write reasons for authors why it was very disturbing for the grandmother, because she couldn't teach him. Now they were taught Archimedes' principle, law of gravity, right? So she got really offended on this, right? And then the most disturbing was they actually taught him. Um, they actually taught him about the music, okay, which was actually given by harlots, and then beggars would sing. So it actually hurted her, right? Now next question. How It says that three ways in which author's mother spent her days after he grew up. Now you can write the three ways by which grandmother spent the days. Or grandma lived alone within the room, and she fully accepted her loneliness in silence. Okay? She never complained about her position and asked for the company of others. All day she sat at the spinning wheel and recited prayers silently. In the afternoon, grandmother would feed sparrow on a meadow for not more than half an hour, and moreover, she was completely habituated to her position in the family and generally missed her village home, because there she took, she took feeding to the sparrows, right? So she accepted everything in silence. Okay, student. Now next question that we see: what was the odd way in which the author's grandmother behaved just before she dies? ठीक है, what was the odd way? बहुत अजीब तरीका क्या था? Before death, grandmother behaved in an odd way. She mostly omitted to pray and spent a very little time talking with the family members. The lips of grandmother almost stopped moving, and rosary fell from her fingers, which was lifeless. And moreover, before her death, grandmother omitted all the connections with the family member and spent a lonely life. Now she did not wanted to talk, right? So you could write this. She told everyone to move away. Okay, she again wanted to pray and read the rosary beads, right? Now the next question, it says, the way in which the sparrows express this sorrow when the author's grandmother died. Now what was the um, actually sorrow? A unique bond was seen between the grandmother and the sparrow. Okay, she got ultimate satisfaction to feed them. Okay, children, she got ultimate satisfaction to feed them and spending time with them. During the afternoon, she became very happy, right? The day when she died, thousands of sparrow came to the meadow and chattered around her body. Chattered around her body, they perched around her body. Somebody was sitting here and there, but they did not chirp. They did not make any kind of sound, right? Now these are five understanding the text. How much have you understood the text? Okay, now let us move forward. It says the author's grandmother was a religious person. What are different ways? What are different ways in which we can come to know this? Now, the grandmother of the author, okay, the grandmother of the author was fully a religious lady, and it could be seen from her behavior. Now, how? She recited prayers all day and visited temples daily, as well as read scriptures. She also recited the prayers when the writer was getting ready to go to school. Even she did not like the school where the author was admitted, because any kind of religious teaching was taught there, because no kind of religious teaching was taught there. During the time when the author turned from the school, she became very excited and happy, and this is the time when she did not recite at all. Until her death, she continued her prayer as well as telling the beads of rosary. Now, describe the changing relationship between the author and his grandmother. Did their feelings for each other change? Through the story, the relationship between the author and his grandmother was changed gradually. Okay, you can write it was changed gradually. In the initial period, the author was closely connected with her, but when they shifted to the city, then was separated from his grandmother. Only the school going time as well as returning time was the happiest time for her, as she got in touch with his grandson. Okay? With her grandson. So that was the happiest moment. Now, would you agree that the author's grandmother was a person strong in character? If yes, give instance that show this. Now, let us discuss. Okay? Um, yes, she was a strong lady as she taught religious teaching. Yes, she was a strong lady as she taught religious teaching than science or music teaching, right? She spent all the time on spinning wheel as well as praying. She did not express any emotion to others and never complained about her situation, right? She ignored her family members and eagerly waited for her grandson, right? Now, last, have you seen someone like the author's grandmother? Do you feel the same sense of loss with regard to someone who would have loved and lost? Now, this, children, you have to write on your own, right? This question is to be done on your own. Why, children? Because it is an important question where you can express your feelings, right? So this question is to be done by yourself. Okay. Now, children, thinking about language. Which language do you think the author and his grandmother used while talking to each other? The grandmother of the author was not educated, right? We can write that. And I think the author and his grandmother used Punjabi, which was which was their mother tongue while talking to each other. Now, next question. Which language do you use to talk to elderly relatives in your family? Now, you can write the elderly relatives in my family are well versed in Hindi and English. Somebody, you can write your language, the 22 recognized languages also, right? I greet them in English and converse with them in Hindi too. How would you say a dilapidated drum in your own language? Like you can write Fata Purana Dhol, right? Is the expression used to say a dilapidated drum in your own language. Okay? Now, can you think of a song or a poem in a language that talks of homecoming? There are numerous poems and folk songs that sings of the exploits of the brave warrior. All these talks of the homecoming of warrior after winning a war, right? Nowadays even you can write sandese aate hain, right? In Hindi you can write that, right? And in English you can write what do you call it, radios in heaven. Okay, that all songs you can write about warriors, right? So children, let's end the session out here. Okay, thank you for watching the video.